Lanna stared at the screen, her heart unnervingly still. There was Nathan, her husband of 8 years, lounging at a beachfront bar with his arm around Brianna, his secretary. The timestamp read 2 minutes ago. She was supposed to believe he was camping in solitude, clearing his mind. Instead, here he was, sipping cocktails under palm trees with the woman he'd sworn was just his assistant. Rachel, her colleague, had shown her the post, trembling with shock, but Lanna's fingers were steady as she typed. "That's wonderful, honey. I'm so glad nature is healing you." She set down her phone and picked up a legal pad, flipping to a clean page. No tears, no rage, just purpose. Her voice low and even, she murmured to herself. "You just gave me everything I need to destroy you. My name is Lanna Thompson, corporate attorney, devoted wife, and the worst mistake my husband ever made. Ever been betrayed by someone so bold they forgot who you are?" Lanna met Nathan during their first semester at Stanford Law. He was sharp, confident, and endlessly charismatic. Always the loudest voice in the room, but with just enough charm to make it tolerable. She was steady, focused, and driven. Where others partied through the stress of law school, Lanna and Nathan spent nights reviewing case studies and mock trial transcripts, forging what felt like a bond built on intellect, ambition, and respect. They were the power couple of their class, balanced, bold, and deeply committed. When graduation came, Lanna was offered a highly coveted position at a top-tier firm in New York. Nathan, meanwhile, had secured a role at Morrison & Webster, a prestigious investment firm in Denver. He was excited, and Lanna didn't hesitate. She turned down her dream for what she believed was their shared future. "We're a team," he'd told her. In Denver, Nathan dove into his new job, while Lanna began at Lambert & Cole. She quickly rose through the ranks, impressing partners with her sharp mind, tireless work ethic, and airtight legal arguments. Within a few years, she became their youngest corporate attorney. Clients refused to her by name. Partners listened when she spoke. Her professional star was rising. At home, however, something shifted. Nathan no longer celebrated her wins. When she brought home exciting updates, he'd offer lukewarm congratulations or change the subject. His smile tightened when others praised her. She brushed it off. Deadlines, ego. She told herself their foundation was solid enough to weather it. Then came the cracks. 6 months ago, Nathan started talking constantly about Brianna, the new secretary at his firm. "She's incredible," he'd say, "so on top of things. Finally, someone who can manage my insane calendar." Lanna smiled politely, pretending not to notice how often Brianna's name came up in conversation. She chalked it up to professional admiration. But then came the missed dates, their anniversary dinner, forgotten, with a last-minute excuse about a late client meeting. That same night, Brianna had posted a grinning selfie from a rooftop bar, captioned "Late-night office views." Lanna hadn't thought much of it at the time. She didn't follow Brianna closely, didn't obsess over Nathan's whereabouts. She trusted him. That trust now felt like a terrible mistake. The signs had been there all along. A new gym membership that never led to visible results. Sudden trips to client conferences that didn't appear on his firm's calendar. Passwords changed on devices that used to be shared. Even his scent had shifted. New cologne. One she hadn't bought him. She'd spent years rationalizing the changes. Everyone goes through rough patches. Work stress can be consuming. Marriage requires compromise. But now, looking back, Lanna saw it all for what it was. A careful unraveling of their life together, done behind her back and funded with shared resources. The man she met at Stanford, the one who had spoken of dreams and partnership, was long gone. In his place stood a liar with a plan. And he thought she wouldn't notice. He had no idea who he was dealing with. Lanna sat in her office, trying to focus on a client contract when Rachel barged in without knocking. Her face was pale, her phone clutched tightly in one hand. "Lanna," she said, her voice trembling. "You need to see this." Rachel handed her the phone, and Lanna took it with an uneasy breath. On the screen was Brianna's Facebook page. The most recent post showed Brianna and Nathan arm-in-arm at a luxury beachfront restaurant, Candlelight, wine glasses, ocean waves. The caption read, "Finally free to love." Lanna scrolled. More photos. A sunset kiss. A selfie with matching silver bracelets. A picture of Nathan feeding Brianna dessert. The timestamps? All from today. "I told him he was on a solo camping trip," Lanna whispered, her voice flat. Rachel looked at her with sympathy. "I don't understand how he thought this wouldn't blow up. She's tagging him in everything." Lanna didn't respond. She reached for her laptop and logged into their joint bank account. The expenses were all there in plain sight. 2 first-class airline tickets to a tropical island, charges from a 5-star resort, luxury jewelry store purchases, and lavish restaurant bills, all paid with shared finances. "That's your money too," Rachel said. "You need to call him, confront him." Lanna shook her head, lips pressed into a tight smile. "No. Why confront a liar when I can legally ruin him instead?" Rachel blinked. "You're not going to say anything?" "I'll say something," Lanna murmured, but not with words. She opened a new folder on her desktop and began saving screenshots of Brianna's posts. She cross-referenced the timestamps with credit card transactions and airline bookings. She exported every transaction from their joint account going back 6 months. She highlighted each charge that didn't match her calendar. Then she started organizing receipts and emails. She wasn't angry in the traditional sense. She was cold, focused, methodical. Years in corporate litigation had trained her to gather evidence before making a move. Emotion would come later. Now was for strategy. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. It read, "Having dinner by the campfire. The stars are amazing out here." Attached was a photo of a tent by a lake with a fire glowing nearby. Lanna zoomed in on the image, her lawyer's instincts kicking in. The lighting was too perfect. The tent looked staged. Something was off. She dropped the image into Google's reverse image search. Seconds later, she had her answer. The photo wasn't his. It had been lifted from a nature blog posted 3 years ago. That was it. That was the final insult. He couldn't even be bothered to fake his lie well. She stared at the text one more time, then looked at Rachel. "He thinks I'm the fool." Rachel frowned. "What are you going to do?" Lanna smiled, calm and steady. "I'm going to do what I do best, build a case. And end him, legally." The storm had started. Nathan just didn't know it yet. Lanna leaned over her laptop late into the night, eyes sharp and fingers flying across the keyboard. The calm, calculating stillness she carried earlier had now hardened into something colder. She wasn't just building a divorce case anymore. She was preparing for war. She began combing through every recent financial transaction with the precision of a seasoned forensic analyst. Hotel charges in cities where Nathan had no scheduled meetings. Jewelry store purchases that never made it home. Lavish restaurant dinners for 2 when he'd claimed he was on work trips. It all painted a picture of betrayal, funded with their shared money. Then she found it. A $30,000 0-cents wire transfer into a personal account she'd never seen before. Then another, $20,000, 0 cents. And then another, $40,000, 0 cents. Each one staggered months apart, calculated, consistent, and deliberately hidden. Rachel, sitting beside her with a second monitor, gasped. "That's over $90,000, 0 cents. He's been siphoning it bit by bit." "This wasn't about falling in love with his secretary," Lanna said coldly. "This was an exit strategy." She stared at the numbers, her stomach sinking. While she had been busy building their future, home, careers, shared dreams, Nathan had been planning his escape route with methodical precision. Lanna snapped her laptop shut, then opened her desk drawer and pulled out a manila folder. Inside was a copy of their joint bank account agreement. She highlighted the clause allowing either party to freeze the account if unauthorized transfers were suspected. She picked up her phone. By morning, the joint accounts were frozen. Her personal assets were safely transferred to a newly opened secure account under her name only, protected, unreachable. She instructed the bank to flag any access attempt by Nathan. Her next move was just as strategic. She logged into her email and pulled up an old file Nathan had once sent her, his firm's employee handbook. She had helped review their compliance policies last year. It was all still there, in bold, black text. Survivors engaging in relationships with subordinates are subject to immediate disciplinary action, including termination. She clicked on the file, scanned it, and forwarded to a secure legal folder she'd created. She knew Nathan was Brianna's direct supervisor. That alone could cost him his career, before the financial aspect even came into play. Rachel shook her head in disbelief. He really thought he could get away with this. "I underestimated who he married," Lanna replied, tone calm but resolute. She saved screenshots of Brianna's romantic captions, tagged photos and time-stamped posts showing Nathan by her side at inappropriate company functions. The evidence was piling up, each piece a nail in the professional coffin Nathan had built for himself. Lanna wasn't reacting emotionally anymore. She was preparing, systematically, as if this were a high-stakes legal case. Because to her, it was. Only this time, the opposing counsel was the man who had once promised to love and protect her. And she was going to make sure he regretted every single lie. Lanna opened her email and attached a carefully curated collection of screenshots. Brianna's beach photos with Nathan, romantic captions, visible office backgrounds, and even time-stamped selfies of them together in what was clearly Nathan's private office. She addressed the email to Susan Mills, the HR director at Nathan's firm, and a former client of Lanna's, from a complaint of child abuse. Within 10 minutes, Susan responded. Her tone was clipped and professional. "Thank you, Lanna. We'll be initiating a formal investigation immediately. This is extremely serious." That was step 1. Step 2 came that afternoon. Lanna called a locksmith and scheduled a full rekeying of her house. While the locksmith worked, she methodically packed Nathan's expensive suits, monogrammed cufflinks, and designer shoes into black trash bags. 8 years of marriage reduced to plastic on the driveway. She taped a note to the top bag. "Hope the camping trip was worth it. Don't forget to post pictures." As Rachel arrived with 2 lattes and an even darker look on her face, she dropped her phone onto the kitchen counter. "You need to see this." Lanna picked it up. Rachel had been combing through the account data Lanna downloaded the night before. She pointed to a spreadsheet of transfers that didn't just lead to Nathan's private account. They linked to multiple vendor payments tied to client accounts from his firm. Same timestamps, same destination banks, but wrong sources. "I'm not just draining your joint account," Rachel said. "He's been moving client funds." "Lanna, this is embezzlement." Lanna exhaled slowly, the weight of it all settling on her shoulders. "He's not just a cheater, he's a criminal." She opened another tab and contacted her divorce attorney, detailing everything: infidelity, theft, potential financial fraud. Her attorney agreed to rush the paperwork. Lanna signed the first round of filings within the hour. Then came the call. "Lanna?" The voice on the other end was sharp and familiar. James Morrison, Nathan's boss and managing partner at the investment firm. "James? I assume you've seen the photos." She paused. "I have. I don't know how to say this. An internal audit we just launched. It looks like Nathan's been stealing. Client funds, possibly millions. Those photos you circulated, they triggered everything." "I figured," she replied evenly. There was a long pause. "Lanna, I'm sorry. We had no idea." She hung up after promising to cooperate if needed. She didn't say much more. She didn't need to. She already had her next steps lined up. The story rippled across Nathan's firm like wildfire. HR was in full damage control. The partners were furious. Some employees had already seen Brianna's public posts. Now, with Lanna's formal complaint and financial records, there was no hiding the truth. Nathan, oblivious in paradise, kept texting her sweet messages. "Miss you. Can't wait to tell you all about the stars out here." Lanna didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, she poured herself a glass of wine, sat at her desk, and finalized her divorce documents. Her hands were steady, her strategy airtight. This was just the beginning. Lanna was reviewing her finalized divorce filing when her phone buzzed with a call from Rachel. Her voice was low and urgent. "Lanna, you need to take this. I just got off the phone with someone named Sarah. She says she used to be Brianna's roommate." Lanna straightened in her chair. "Go on." "Says this isn't the first time Nathan and Brianna have done this. Apparently, they've been pulling this exact scam targeting wealthy executives, getting them into compromising situations, and then blackmailing them. They've done it at least 3 times that she knows of. But this time, Brianna broke the rules." Lanna raised an eyebrow. She fell in love with him? She started posting everything. That wasn't part of the playbook. She exposed them both. Lanna's breath caught. It all made sense now. The carefully hidden money, the fake camping trip, the secrecy. Nathan hadn't just been cheating. He was orchestrating a business plan into a mess. Without hesitation, Lanna scheduled a meeting with James Morrison. She arrived at the Morrison and Webster building the next morning and was ushered into his office. James looked pale and drawn, his usual commanding presence diminished by the storm he now faced. Lanna handed over a flash drive. This includes Sarah's statement, transaction records, social media posts, and screenshots from private messages. "I believe your firm has been targeted in a broader pattern of fraud and extortion." James stared at the drive, then looked up slowly. "You think this is a pattern?" "I know it is, and based on what I've gathered, it could rise to the level of federal crimes: wire fraud, embezzlement, blackmail, offshore laundering." James picked up the phone. "Get the FBI on the line. Now." By noon, Lanna was sitting across from Special Agent Phillips, a sharp, analytical woman with a reputation for bringing down white-collar crime rings. She listened intently, nodding as Lanna walked her through every step of Nathan and Brianna's timeline. "I'll need to freeze all accounts immediately," Phillips said, "especially anything offshore. Can you help us confirm the wire transfer paths?" Lanna nodded. "I already mapped them out." That evening, word came in that Nathan and Brianna had attempted to board separate flights out of the country. Brianna heading to the Dominican Republic, Nathan booked for the Cayman Islands. Both were detained at their respective airports, flagged through an FBI watch list issued just hours earlier. The next morning, Lanna composed one final message to her husband. Subject: account problem. "Hey babe, there seems to be an issue with one of our investment accounts. Can you take a look and let me know what's going on? I attached a few things that came across my desk. Might be important." Attached were screenshots of Brianna's posts, the handbook policy violation, evidence of the money trail, and Sarah's signed statement. The email ended with one final line. "Guess your camping trip just got interrupted." 15 minutes later, Lanna's phone exploded with calls. 6 missed calls from Nathan, 3 voicemails. Then the texts began. "Nathan, what is this?" "Nathan, you don't understand what you're doing." "Nathan, I can explain everything. Please, just talk to me." Lanna handed her phone to Agent Phillips, who began recording the message stream in real time. "Lanna, explain what? The affair? The theft? The blackmail?" "Nathan, it wasn't like that. The money, it was for us. For our future." "Lanna, our future? While you were planning to leave me?" "Nathan, who told you that? Brianna?" She's lying. She means nothing to me. Phillips whispered. He's panicking. Push harder. Lanna, so you didn't help her set up the offshore accounts, the ones you funneled client money into? Typing bubbles flickered, disappeared, came back. Nathan, how did you find all this out? Lanna, I'm a corporate attorney. Following money is my job. Lanna, also, the FBI says hello. The phone went silent. No more replies. But it didn't matter. They had everything they needed. Within hours, Nathan and Brianna were formally arrested. The FBI raided Nathan's office and uncovered evidence of 3 other blackmail plots. The forensic team tracked offshore accounts spanning multiple countries. Agent Phillips turned to Lanna during their final debrief. You've just unraveled one of the largest corporate blackmail operations we've seen in this region. Lanna smiled faintly. He always underestimated me. Now, she wasn't just a betrayed wife. She was the key witness in a federal fraud investigation, and fully in control of the narrative. Lanna sat silently in the courtroom as the judge prepared to deliver sentencing. Nathan sat across from her, dressed in a wrinkled beige prison jumpsuit, his once cross-fitted posture now slouched and pale. Brianna, seated beside him, looked equally drained. Gone was the glamour and smugness that had filled her social media feed. In their place were 2 people stripped of their illusion, facing the fallout of their choices. The charges had been extensive: embezzlement, wire fraud, blackmail, and conspiracy. The FBI's investigation, built largely from the evidence Lanna had so carefully compiled, left no room for doubt. With their options exhausted, both Nathan and Brianna agreed to plea deals. Nathan was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Brianna was sentenced. Lanna took the stand during sentencing, not because she needed closure, but because she wanted clarity. She wore the same navy blue suit she'd worn during their first mock trial at Stanford Law. The irony wasn't lost on her, nor on Nathan, who couldn't. I trusted him, she said calmly to the judge, not just as a husband, but as a partner. I turned down opportunities to build our future, and while I was doing that, he was planning to erase me from it. He used my name, my trust, and my resources to defraud others. Today isn't just about justice for me. It's about making sure no one else falls into the trap he created. The courtroom was still when she stepped down. There were no tears, no drama, just Lanna, composed and resolute, walking back to her seat with her head high. In the weeks that followed, the story spread far beyond Denver. The media labeled it the Pananicon, a catchy moniker that captured both the location of the affair and the scale of deception. Articles circulated nationwide. Headlines like "Corporate Attorney Dismantles Fraud Empire" and "Cheater Turned Con" began trending. Morrison and Webster moved quickly to manage their firm's image. In a boardroom filled with executives and attorneys, James Morrison stood and extended his hand to Lanna. "You've done more than help us," he said. "You saved this firm. And frankly, you've earned more than thanks. We'd be honored to name you our new general counsel." Lanna accepted the position with the same quiet authority she'd used to unravel a criminal ring. It wasn't about power, it was about purpose. She was no longer tethered to Nathan's shadow. She stood on her own merit, with her name respected and her reputation soaring. Not long after, a letter arrived in her office. No return address, just her name written in Nathan's familiar handwriting. She didn't hesitate. Without opening it, she dropped it into the shredder. Whatever words he thought she needed to hear, they no longer mattered. Her story, once buried in secrecy and betrayal, had become something more. It was whispered in law firm break rooms, shared in university lectures, and discussed in online forums. A cautionary tale. A reminder that even the most calculated betrayal can't stand against a mind that's prepared, a heart that's unshaken, and a woman who refuses to stay silent. Lanna didn't need revenge. She had justice, and that, she knew, was far more lasting. After the sentencing, Lanna didn't pause to rest. She redirected the same precision and tenacity that dismantled Nathan's scheme into building something new, something lasting. She launched a fraudvention consulting firm, focusing on helping companies detect and stop internal betrayal before it could grow. Using her legal expertise and real-world experience, she built workshops, screening protocols, and investigative frameworks tailored to protect businesses from exactly the kind of deceit she had endured. Clients came quickly, some out of fear, others out of admiration. Word of her work traveled fast across Colorado. Within 3 months, she was consulting for firms in 3 states. Her inbox flooded with messages from executives, attorneys, and survivors of financial abuse. Many of them had never known where to turn. Lanna gave them clarity, strategy, and power. She understood their pain. She had lived it and overcome it. At home, she took steps to reclaim her space. She redecorated the living room, replaced the bed, changed the curtains. Every decision was deliberate, cleansing. What was once a home filled with the quiet tension of deceit now radiated peace. Her favorite room became the study, filled with sunlight and fresh flowers. It was where she journaled, where she wrote down lessons learned and future goals. She donated anonymously to local shelters that supported women escaping financial manipulation. The cause was close to her heart. She knew too well what it meant to be blindsided, isolated, and come by someone you once loved. These women didn't just need resources. They needed someone who had been through it and come out stronger. Lanna became that person. When spring arrived, she booked a solo trip to Iceland. She had always wanted to see the northern lights, to feel the quiet majesty of untouched landscapes. It was the kind of trip Nathan had never been interested in. Too cold, too quiet, too far. But for Lanna, it was perfect. She spent her days exploring waterfalls and geothermal springs, and her nights curled under thick blankets, journaling about how far she had come. In the solitude of the Icelandic countryside, she found something she hadn't realized she'd lost: herself. 2 weeks after returning home, her receptionist buzzed her office. "There's someone here to see you," she said. Her name's Sarah. Sarah, the woman who'd unknowingly triggered the unraveling of Nathan's scheme. Lanna stepped into the lobby and saw her sitting nervously, a file clasped tightly in her hands. "I started a business," Sarah said. "Small, just me and a friend. But we've had some shady vendor issues, and I remembered what you do." Lanna smiled and gestured toward her office. "Come in. First consultation's free." As Sarah sat down, Lanna felt a sense of purpose settle into her bones. This wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about prevention, empowerment, and legacy. The woman who had once been betrayed was now the person others trusted to help them stay protected. Lanna didn't just for her past, she turned it into a source of strength, not just for herself, but for others. Late one afternoon, Lanna sat alone in her office, warm sunlight spilling across her polished desk. The Stanford Law diploma above her shelf caught the light just right, glowing like a quiet badge of everything she'd built, everything she'd reclaimed. Her phone buzzed with a news alert, another update on Nathan's failed appeal. She didn't even bother opening it. Rachel stepped through the door holding 2 glasses and a bottle of red. "Guess what? I heard Nathan tried to plea his sentence down again," she said, grinning. Lanna raised an eyebrow and accepted the glass. "Still playing games. Poor guy hasn't realized I'm not on the board anymore. I've moved on to the next level." Just then, James Morrison tapped on the doorframe. "Got a minute?" he asked. "You're quickly becoming the face of corporate resilience, you know. Everyone wants the woman who brought down the Punana." Lanna chuckled softly, setting her glass aside. Her eyes drifted toward the window, where the Denver skyline sparkled with dusk. She thought back to that first message, the fake camping photo. That was the moment the story changed. That was when she stopped waiting and started writing her own ending. "They do their own graves," she said, glancing at Rachel. "I just hand them the shovel." She turned back to her desk, surrounded by law books, case notes, and vision boards. This office wasn't just a symbol of survival, it was a monument to her power. And this chapter, she wrote every word.